What exactly is Volvo up to in China? I'm standing here in Shanghai, which we could call their Hawaii. Southern China, it's actually over 30 degrees Celsius here. And there stands their bestseller, the Volvo XC70, the new one, which is really just a dressed-up Lynk Co. 8. Volvo has lost about 20% of its sales since 2021. And that's in a market that has been on the rise. And when it comes to rechargeable cars, it's a disaster. Sales in China have gone up by almost 70% during this period for rechargeable vehicles, while Volvo is just falling. The EX30, EX40, and the EM90, which is a nice car, aren't selling at all. They've finally managed to get sales going for the ES90 and EX90, which are built in China. But it's a disaster. The only car that's selling at all is that plug-in hybrid. I saw it a few months ago in Beijing, and I said, no, don't bring it to Sweden. This is not a good idea. That's what I thought then when I saw it in the showroom before I had driven it. Will I feel the same way now? Jim Rohn said 2024. No, we shouldn't just be selling electric cars in 2030. We should especially also be selling plug-in hybrids and e-revs, that is, range extenders. That's the big thing right now in China. This is some kind of semi-range extender, you could say. Will I think, yes, sure, after I've driven it? We're bringing it into Sweden. He said at the time that this car will be sold in 70 markets. It's still manufactured in China and in Sweden. Then it wouldn't be subject to these tough import tariffs. Maybe it's possible to get this one into Sweden at a reasonable price. Who knows? At least I've driven it. I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to go through the whole car. Is this a good car? Is this Volvo's future in China? What are they actually doing? I'm going to compare it a bit with the XC6. It's still being sold in China. Technically, yes, but in terms of volume, no, not at all. Is this a better buy than the XC60? Is it a better car than the XC60? In China, at least, you can compare what they cost against each other. I'm driving the base station front-wheel drive. It has a 4-cylinder 1.5-liter engine, plus an electric motor, 3-speed gearbox. Everything up front comes from Geely. And this car has 21 kilowatt hours. So this car isn't like, wow, what a range. I think that if you're going to buy a plug-in hybrid in China today, you want more than the roughly 100 kilometers this one gives you. It has a total of 314 horsepower. 0 to 100 in 8 seconds. Weighs 2.1 tons. Costs 250,000 RMB. And that's tough. Way too much, I say, if you compare it to a lot of other cars. You can get a Xiaomi U7 for that kind of money. Entry-level car. Fully electric car. It depends on what you want. The prices are too high. And it doesn't have a heat pump. Here in southern China, people don't care about that. But up north, it can get freezing cold. So for a car like this, a plug-in not to have a heat pump is really strange. I don't understand how that's possible. But to be able to compare this car, the XC70, with an XC60 in China, you really have to compare it to the 4-style version of this car. Then the comparison looks something like this. The XC70 has 462 horsepower compared to the XC60's 449. 5.3 seconds to 100 versus 5 seconds to 100. So the XC60 is actually faster. We get a 31 kilowatt hour battery compared to 8 for the XC60, so it's much worse in terms of range. The electric range is 210 kilometers for the large version with all-wheel drive compared to only 64 kilometers for the XC60. And the trunk is 4.8 for this one versus 4.68. An XC70 AWD costs 300,000 RMB compared to 350,000 for an XC60. Even though the official price is over 500,000 for an XC60. The discounts are crazy. Sometimes a discount on a car can be 150,000 to 200,000 kroner, so there's no consistency between a car's list price and what it actually costs at a dealership. You simply can't sell an XC60 for over 500,000. For that money, you'd get a super luxury car in China. An XC60 costs about 80,000 Swedish kroner more in China than a comparable 4-wheel drive XC70. Is it worth the money? Neither of them is particularly fun. This one feels more modern with its large screen and so on. But the X16 feels much more premium, much better built. This one feels pretty plain. Nothing special, but in any case, let's take a... In China, Volvo is becoming more and more of a brand that people love, and I think that's absolutely right. But that also means that the cars developed in Sweden with SPA3 and mirror casting won't be sold in China. And those are the best cars they have right now. Absolutely. I would say the EX60. Without any doubt, I can beat this one in every aspect. But in China, they will use more and more Geely technology to lower prices and bring out lots of new models. I think they're planning to launch 4 new models in China next year. I guess there will be many E-revs, that is, with range extenders. Large batteries, maybe 40, 50, 60 kilowatt hours. Range of 200, 300, 400 kilometers on electricity. And then a small engine that runs and charges the batteries. That's kind of the new luxury in China. E-revs. The Germans, with their plug-in hybrids that go about 100 kilometers or so, they don't stand a chance here in China. That also means the XC60 is out of the running. No one wants such an old car that can't go farther on electricity these days. You could say that the Chinese company Li Auto stole the niche for luxurious premium family cars from Volvo when they came out with their range extenders with very luxurious, cozy interiors, big screens, in other words, living rooms on wheels. Volvo continues with a more minimalist Scandinavian style. And so far, that hasn't worked at all. We're going to take a look at the specifications and the space. I'm going to answer some questions that I've received from you viewers, and soon I'll also answer the question, should this car come to Europe? Is it a good car? I think the seats are a bit too small. Sweat. There are also some other things in this climate. The driving experience is the driving experience. It's not just about driving a car. There's absolutely nothing about this that feels exciting or engaging. An XF60 actually feels more like driving a car than this one does. And then we have to stand in line. There we go. It talks so much. This Chinese system. It even speaks Volvo Chinese. The system talks a lot all the time. How I drive or don't drive. All the settings. There's a lot more talking on this side. That's just how they want it in China. But this is just a standard lane-keeping assistance system and a conventional cruise control feature. But it's simply not a truly intelligent or autonomous setup. And then you're not in the game. This one is definitely not as good as most Chinese ones when it comes to that. Self-driving, and that's what you want. You want to be able to enter your destination into the navigation, and then it helps you change lanes, signals, and navigates you all the way to your goal. I can feel it shifting gears. Yes, the 3-speed gearbox. But there's a software update coming now for this car so that the 4-seater version will get proper self-driving this summer. This advanced version will cost extra, maybe around 30,000 kroner or so. So you start to realize, okay, if we're going to compete, we need to have all these features that are really required. But if you look at what other cars offer in this luxury class, there are much, much more advanced chassis, air suspensions, gadgets, screens, and, as mentioned, refrigerators. So yes, I'm not allowed to talk about the self-driving feature. The back seat is spacious. There's as much legroom as you could want. We have room for the hat. This feels like a real Chinese L-back seat. An extra long back seat, much longer wheelbase than an X60. The seating position is good. You can also sit quite comfortably in the middle seat. But there's nothing extra fun here. So there aren't that many features. This plastic feels really hot here in China, in these temperatures. 30 degrees Celsius makes you sweat. But a good back seat, as it has to be in order to sell cars here. And who sits here? Well, it's people like me. Grandpa? The older generation is usually driven by the younger. It's more common here to drive your children in your cars. So people take care of their elders here. In that way, you offer a bit of nice back seats. Nice. The design is definitely Volvo with these lights and so on. Let's also take a look in the trunk, then we'll see here. So I brought my measuring tape, and here the camera got some heat with a swing. But the XC70 is a bit smaller in liters, but actually a bit bigger in most measurements. The driving environment, that's Volvo. The steering wheel is, of course, Volvo. it feels, well, everything feels a bit like that. The plastic here feels a bit cheap. I don't know, plastic wood feels cheap. I saw that there are a lot of Chinese family cars that are much more luxurious. And in some way, it's completely gadget-free. It has no thrills. There's nothing that makes you go, wow, maybe this little thing that you can adjust the volume for the sound system. That's the only thing that might be a bit fun. In China, you're allowed to have window tint all the way up to the front. So you just get to have that stylish rear view mirror that you can see clearly in. But simple, no buttons at all here. There's just a big screen there, and then there's a big screen in the middle. This one can be slid back if you want to tinker or put things here. 2 spots for phones there. Simple. If you think this is Scandinavian, then absolutely that's how it is. But this feels... no headless blade. So I'm driving the base version here, the front-wheel drive. So there is more luxury you can add on. This is the rental car version that I've managed to get hold of. Glass roof back here. It feels like Volvo, but very much a base Volvo. I don't think there are many people in China who appreciate this kind of purity. Although actually a lot of Chinese cars have this Scandinavian vibe. Neo, for example, is also minimalist in Scandinavian design, but in a much more luxurious way. This is kind of... I've got a bit of fabric here. No, this doesn't measure up to being a luxury brand. Even Lynk Co feels a bit more upscale, a bit more bling and so on. So the seats, very warm and small. Let's also take a look at the navigation for a bit. So this is what's on offer. A large screen. There's absolutely no way to switch this to English or anything like that. China is a country where China really is 100%. So there aren't many people who can speak English here. The screen is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with it. Here we can go in there. Maybe like that. Here we see the battery. Kind of fun. And there are all these settings for how you want to control and adjust things, but there's nothing for the chassis. It's a steel chassis that can't be adjusted in any way. There's no refrigerator in this car, which is something you want in China. There should be, and there aren't any big screens anywhere. There's no luxury, it's just a bit Spartan Scandinavian style. As mentioned, Volvo's sales in China aren't great, and I think that's partly because of this. You don't get that, wow, what a luxurious, fun car feeling. The steering wheel feels a bit plasticky, cheap like this. Simple buttons. Square shapes I can actually like, that's not a problem at all. This plastic here, it's not very fabric-like either. No, I don't get any luxury car vibes from this one. The real issue with this car actually is the noise level. It doesn't have double glazed windows, but it's still very quiet. I would say it's quieter than an XC70. Road noise and wind noise as well, actually, for some strange reason. But that's how it feels. The suspension is okay. I'm talking all the time. I don't really know what it's aiming for, honestly. But there's something about it. I should answer some questions too. I've actually received quite a few on Instagram. Why is this car better looking than the Volvo EX60, both front and back? I agree. Not entirely, but that's a matter of taste. We all have different opinions. I don't think it feels particularly Volvo impressive. Honestly, I just don't like this front that looks generic. It's just slapped on this badge that doesn't really fit with the rest. No, I think they've missed the mark a bit with this car. Use it in a grille so it gets a bit of its own. I think it looks more premium with a grille like Mercedes and BMW have. This is just a flat panel. I don't think these nonsense Tesla-style fronts suit a Volvo, but that's a matter of taste. Is it coming to Sweden? I actually don't think so. How is the build quality again? It's okay, but nothing more. It doesn't feel premium with this plastic interior. It feels too simple, in my opinion. And the choice of materials as well, if you ask me. No. An XC60 is much, much better. Road noise is low. That's actually what impresses the most. The engine runs very quietly and you mostly drive on electric power and so on. And when it kicks in, you don't really notice it either. So it's a really pleasant, everyday powertrain. Quiet, nice, the power is there. If you need to accelerate a bit, it hums a little, but that's okay. This isn't the kind of car you want to rev anyway. The power, 8 seconds to 100 is perfectly fine. And if you get the four-wheel drive version, you get 5 seconds. That's way too fast for an ordinary, simple family car, if you ask me. Seat comfort. The front seats are too small, in my opinion, and too plasticky. I want this wool upholstery to be ventilated or something like that. Massage. This car doesn't have massage either. It doesn't really have anything that feels like a premium car. Is the interior just as ugly in real life? It's actually quite interesting, I would say. How is the brake feel on the Regan? Nothing that I've actually reacted strongly to. Miss has thought it's a bit too clunky in its engagement there, but this isn't a car for connoisseur drivers, so this is a utility car that just happens to be called Volvo. So I wouldn't recommend Volvo to bring this car to Europe. I still think it doesn't feel premium enough. Sure, if it goes 200 kilometers, you might think it's fun with a budget car that's so basic, but it doesn't elevate Volvo to that wow premium brand. I think Volvo wants to be there. They don't want to be a basic brand. So no, skip the XC70 in this version. But please do come back with a wagon version that's raised, a true XC70. I think people would really like that. A Volvo wagon, extra height, a true XC70 replacement. I think that would do well with a bit more of a premium feel. So if Volvo doesn't really understand the Chinese market, what actually sells here, you have to lower the prices, you have to deliver more gadgets, you have to feel more premium if you're going to charge a lot. You can't just let yourself be overtaken by Seeker, which feels much more aggressive. Nicer cars. This feels like a real budget car compared to Seeker's 8X and so on. It can't compete, so Volvo really has to step up if they want to come back to China. Otherwise, you have to give this up. And you have to remember that China is Volvo's biggest market, accounting for 1/3 of their sales, so you can't just give up. China says that we manage just fine without China. You have to go all in with much nicer cars at much lower prices. That's how it is. That's what's required to be able to compete in this market. At the same time, Volvo really should be able to compete on the Chinese market much better than BMW, Mercedes, or Audi, since they have a Chinese owner with all this technology and all of Geely's expertise. Factories and flexibility and all of that. The fact that they're letting themselves be overtaken is completely crazy. And that it's not more premium, given what this can deliver, is just insane. So no, skip this car for Europe. Come back with significantly more impressive and luxurious cars. Why not bring the brand new Seeker 8X to Europe, manufactured by the Swedish automaker Volvo? So what do you think about this video? Was it exciting and interesting? Do you agree with me or not? Would you like this car to be sold in Sweden? Write in the comments and feel free to subscribe and also become a member of my channel. Please support me so that I can manage financially as well. Take care. Goodbye.